Good morning or afternoon. Sorry, it's afternoon. It feels like morning because there's so much happening, so much excitement, and I feel like I just got up. I'm drinking my, as usual, London Fog tea or Earl Grey tea. But yeah, welcome. Welcome to your daily dose of salt and light. There's going to be a lot of salt today. and hopefully a lot of light more towards the end there. I do have a bit of a funny meme that I saw that my husband sent me and I had to chuckle. But yeah, we have a lot to cover. This weekend there was so much going on. I don't know if you're on Twitter, but if you're not on Twitter, I highly recommend you get on there. But yeah, so much was going on. It was the start of the GST being applied. I tweeted about that, how some businesses were posting flyers, the ones that were struggling to get everything kind of in place in time. I'll probably share that. It wasn't one I was planning on sharing, but I might as well bring that up. But I'll do that at the end if we have some time. I'm going to try to go through things pretty quickly today, but the first thing I want to share was a tweet that I did last week. So this would have been, I'm just going to double check the date here. December 13th. So was that on Friday? I'm just checking the calendar here. Why am I in January? Yeah, on Friday. So I did a tweet on Friday. It went insanely viral, which I don't know why, but anyways, I'll share it with you guys here. I just realized I have to switch up. I'm a bit late in starting as usual. Maybe I should say start time at 12:30 and then that gives me more time. I had to drive my kids on Mondays. I drive them to the city to go to school. And then I got back and my 5-year-old apparently was playing in my office and in my studio because he had closed a bunch of screens, a bunch of things that I already have preset, and he had somehow unhooked the mouse. So, and I couldn't, like the Bluetooth, and I couldn't turn it back on because the mouse wasn't working to turn it back on. So I had to scour the house to find a wired mouse. Anyways, I got it all going and working. And I think I might have to put a lock on my office door so my kid, it's one of them. It's James. He's 5 years old and he's like a nerd. I would say a nerd. He's extremely brilliant, especially for his age. So, and he likes all things electronic. So he loves this office in this room and he'll touch and play with everything. And he even took the battery out of the mouse. Anyways, got it going. And now I'm going to share with you kind of what started on Friday. And I'll share my thoughts on it. And I did share my thoughts too. I had insane amount of posts go viral this week. And I think it's been over 1 million impression just in the last 3 days, which I find insane when you think about it. But yeah, I'll share the first one. So there was a lot of conversation about and we talked about that last week about the annexing Canada and after Trump had a conversation with Trudeau kind of as a joke, and Trump kind of kept pushing that joke by saying that by calling Trudeau the governor of the 51st state. Anyways, but it was a lot of people were discussing it in Canada, and I want to get the feel of, okay, is it only Albertans? Is it only Saskatchewan people, or is it people all over Canada? And that's kind of what spurred this tweet. So I said, hear me out. What if Alberta, and Alberta only, was to become the 51st state? How many Canadians would move to Alberta? And the response on this tweet was insane. I have 1.9K comments. The majority of the comments were people saying, in a heartbeat, I'm already moving there. Or you had a very small portion saying traitor to all the people who were commenting that. You had some people saying, no, we want independence. But the response shocked me a little bit. Like, I knew a lot of Canadians felt very discouraged with the current government, but I didn't know to the level that it was. I mean, you did see it when Trump made those statements, a lot of people online, and I know online is not a true reflection of reality, but I do think it is a good reflection as to the sentiment in Canada. When you see things start trending online, you start seeing politicians start talking about it, start addressing it. Once it starts being okay to talk about it online, you see politicians start talking about it. So I did that tweet, and then I started thinking, am I one of those people that probably would? And to be honest, the bigger part of me is yes. The part of me that's still holding on to my country is thinking, no, I'm gonna stay and fight a little bit longer. But it made me reflect, what the heck happened to the patriotism that I used to have? Like I was in the reserve army too when I was younger, when I was like 16 years old. I did like basic training with the reserve, and I was very patriotic then. I was very patriotic most of my life, pretty much all my life. It's one of the big reasons that I joined the RCMP. I wanted to serve and protect my country. And I just remember when I graduated from RCMP school. If you don't know, you go to depot for 6 months, and then once you graduate, you get to wear that red serge. I just remember going to the airport and picking up my parents, and that was the first time ever that I wore that red serge, like full on in public, not at depot. And I just remember the immense pride I felt as representing the federal police force in Canada, as protecting and representing my country. And I thought to myself, where did it go? And it's what spurred me on to write another post that also has gone insanely viral, because I think a lot of people identify with what I wrote. And I'm going to read it for my viewers here, just so you get a grasp as to what happened to kind of damage or chip away at the patriotism that I used to have. I used to be very patriotic. It was that patriotism and love for my country that led me to join the RCMP and take an oath to serve and protect this great nation. Again, I used to be patriotic until I was treated as second-class citizen who couldn't enter a restaurant, watch my son's soccer game, or fly to see my family across the country. And all this cheered on and demanded by a large portion of Canadians. Until I used to be patriotic, until our Charter of Rights and Freedom became meaningless. I used to be patriotic until I saw my former coworkers beating and trampling peaceful protesters with horses during the trucker convoy. I used to be patriotic until it became clear there would be no accountability or safeguards to ensure that what happened during COVID never happens again. I used to be patriotic until the justice system became politicized and weaponized against those who ideologically oppose the current government. I used to be patriotic until the government's out-of-control spending drove inflation so high that most people can't even afford to live. I used to be patriotic until our healthcare system became one of the worst out of 30 developed nations. I could have added more to that, but I was trying to keep this somewhat short. I used to be patriotic until the mainstream media started spewing lies day after day, covering for Trudeau no matter how many scandals or how much proof of corruption came out. I used to be patriotic until the government allowed so much immigration that my kids' dream of home ownership turned into a pipe dream. I used to be patriotic until the justice system became so broken that I feel unsafe even in my own home. I used to be patriotic until the government taxed us so heavily that we now give more to them than we get to keep, essentially making us slave to taxes. I used to be patriotic until our education system turned into indoctrination schools intent on destroying the moral fabric of society. All of these reasons and more has chipped away at the patriotism I used to have. I don't know if I'll ever get it back, but I can assure you it's only going to get worse under this current government. So that was the tweet I wrote yesterday. I was actually going to have a nap yesterday afternoon. I was about to fall asleep, and I don't know if you guys have that happen, but I often get awakened from my sleep or right as I fall asleep. It's almost like that's where everything's kind of shut down to the point where I'm open to hearing from God. And I just remember just getting this strong pull that I needed to share why I'm not patriotic anymore, and to share the how much this is making me really sad for my country. It's breaking my heart that that's where I am now. But yeah, a lot of people identified with this tweet, and it's still getting shared and retweeted. It's got over 1,000 retweets, 341 comments, basically people saying the same thing. Let me know too. Hey, sorry. I kind of usually always say, let me know where you're watching from, just so I know what's working and what's not working. On Friday, I didn't get any comments from Twitter, and I don't know if something's wrong where it's not going through and it's not working. But if you're watching from Twitter, let me know. I think it's working today because we have a lot more viewers than we did on Friday. Friday was the lowest. I think we had about 1,000, and usually I get between 500 and like 800. But yeah, let me know where you're watching from. If you can hear me clearly. Jesse says, I look forward to becoming American. I can't wait. So he's one of those that probably would have commented on that post. But it just goes to show, like, why is it that those who are most patriotic, because when you think about it, the people who are the most patriotic are usually conservatives. And now you're seeing the conservatives being the one that are the least patriotic, because the conservatives are so concerned with how far gone our country has gone, how much we've lost. The things that we thought would protect people from crossing the line into what we should have never allowed to begin with was worthless, useless. There was other things that I commented on here. My heart is heavy today and broken as I sit here reminiscing and longing for the Canada we used to have, when I used to be proud to call my home. This is another one that a lot of people was liking and retweeting. As it was all happening, I kept thinking, surely people are not going to go along with this. Surely people are not going to be okay with people being treated this way. Surely people have been taught their history. And I was disappointed every time until the convoy happened. There was a glimpse of hope as they drove across the country, and you saw thousands of people standing at intersection overpasses in minus 40-degree weather. For the Americans, that's minus 40 in Fahrenheit too. That hope was crushed when I saw those who swore an oath to protect, beat up our fellow peaceful citizens. We have had wins here in Saskatchewan by getting massive numbers of like-minded former patriots. And I say former patriots because a lot of us are not as patriotic as we used to be. Former patriots to get involved. But it needs to happen across this country for true change at the federal level. And that is where the biggest mountain will be to climb. So like I said, we did it in Saskatchewan. We're still doing it in Saskatchewan. This is what the organization I founded has been working on, is getting people to run in the provincial election, in the municipal election, in the school board election. And we've had huge wins in Saskatchewan. But we're finding a lot of the problem is happening at the federal level, and we just need a new election. And I think we'll start seeing true change. But I say in this post, join your MLA, MPP, MP's board, go to their events, build relationship with them, run for office at any levels, do something, because the future of this country is too important to give up. I still have a bit of fight in me, but I'm getting tired. We need millions more like me willing to show up when it matters most. Which is so true. If we want change at the federal level, we need all the former patriotic people to get involved. When I ask people how many of you have voted in a nomination election, about 1% of the people in the room put their hand up. The majority of people don't even know what that is. I'll give you an example I'll tell you what that is. That's an election where you get to choose what candidate is going to represent what party. So there's more than just the leadership where you choose the leader of the party. You can actually choose who's going to be on the ballot for your elected official. And if you don't like them, you can actually challenge that elected official. It's a little bit different at the federal level, but at the provincial level, it's a year before the election or sometime before the election after they announce if they're going to run again or not. You get to challenge that. And if someone's challenging it, you get to vote in that nomination election. At the federal level, it's a little bit different in the sense if the current party in power is, let's say, the Liberal, you can't challenge the Conservatives if they have a Conservative seat. But if the Conservatives are in power, then you can challenge the Conservative seat. And I'm not saying you should do this for every MP. We have some great MPs, even at the Conservative side, and they've been speaking out. They were muffled for a little bit, but they've been getting bolder and speaking out. Do I wish it was more? Yes, I do. But they have. But yeah, you can challenge it. So the nomination election, when that happens, you can vote in that if you have a party membership. Now, this is where we fall short in Canada, like seriously fall short. And I don't know if it's the same thing on the left side as the right side, but in the US, the nomination election are what is called primary elections. So the primaries, you hear about it all the time. It's where they decide who's going to lead the party. It's where they decide who's going to be on the ballot. If it's someone already sitting or if someone challenges them, that it's called the primaries. 40% of Americans vote in the primaries. 40%. In Canada, we have less than 1% who vote in our nomination election. Less than 1%. That means less than 1% of people, or the candidates who win because of less than 1% of people. If Canadians were to truly get involved, if every former patriot were to get involved, you could basically handpick every single MP. And that doesn't mean you have to convince the entire population to vote for a particular party or a new party. It's actually much easier to handpick every candidate just through nomination election. And I've talked about this over and over again. It's also the avenue where foreign interference has thrived. So how many of you, if you're watching here, how many of you have voted in a nomination election? How many of you didn't even know what that was? So you want to affect change. You want candidates who will be bolder, who will address the issues that we have in Canada. First of all, get a party membership. If you don't have a party membership, then you're not participating in the full democratic process we have in this country. Your voice is not mattering as much as it could. Actually, your vote in a party membership or in a nomination election is worth so much more than it is in the general election. In the general election, you might get, like at the federal level, 30,000 votes per candidate. At the nomination election, most vote or most election is decided by 1,000 votes. So in certain riding, it's even lower. In other ones, because it's like guaranteed to be like, let's say CPC, a lot more people show up to pick their candidates. But that's ridiculous. Like, we should be embarrassed by that as Canadians, that only less than 1% of people even know about this or even show up to vote. But that's That's what we're dealing with. So you're wondering why it's always people who seem to know the former candidate or friends of candidates or friend. It seems like an old boys club because it is, because you don't show up. And I know this might seem like tough love, but it is. Like if we want to truly change our country, we need to show up where it matters most. And that's one of those places where people haven't shown up. And I don't necessarily blame you. Most of it is because you guys don't even know that this is an option, this is an opportunity. And that's why organizations like ours are doing the work that needs to be done, educating Canadians on the democratic process, educating Canadians on how to affect change if you want change in your government. It's not a lost cause. I'll consider it a full lost cause when the entire population is fully asleep and not getting involved. I'll consider it a lost cause when the former patriotic people give up completely. And I don't think right now that's what you guys are going to do. I think once you're shown where you can step up, you will. But yeah, that's my thoughts. We did it in Saskatchewan. Now we need to do it across Canada. And that's the only way at the federal level is going to change. So I'm hoping one day we'll get patriotic again. I'm hoping we'll see change and we'll be living in a country that we can brag about to the US when we go over for a visit. We can say, yeah, I'm from Canada, one of the greatest countries in the world. I can't say I'm sharing that mindset now. No. So why is it so appealing to merge with the US or becoming the 51st state? Ask yourself, why is it so appealing to so many Canadians? It's because of the reasons that I listed and many more. People see the US that has a constitution that stood even when the pressure was unreal. Ours was nothing. People look to the US who has firearm laws and castle protection laws when in Canada you can't even protect your own home. You know, if somebody breaks into your house and you shoot them, you're more. When you feel that your government has failed you at protecting yourself, you look to places where it's still very much active. When you see the double standard that's happening in our court system in Canada when it comes to the protests, you have the convoy, which there was no rape, there was no violent act, no destruction of property. It was peaceful Canadians exercising their right to free speech. And yet, look, you still have many who were jailed, many who are still in jail, and many who are still facing legal prosecution, like Tamara and Chris, who may go to jail. But yet you have all the pro-Hamas, the pro-terrorist organization. I'm going to call it that because that's what we've seen it's been. When you start flying IRGC, ISIS flags in your protest, that is an illegal protest. You can't demand calls for the death of people and think that's legal protest. And you're seeing that burning the Canadian flag, screaming chants death to Canada. And that what's happening with that? Nothing. Nothing. It's just being ignored and completely allowed. How many of them are in jail right now? We have a two-tier justice system. And while the US still has that as well, they're doing something about it. There is hope there that something's going to be done about it. I could go on all day as to why so many people are saying, yes, 51st state. And if you're one of those conservatives that are calling these people traitors, you likely were one of the ones that during COVID, you were pushing for all of this. You didn't get treated the way the unvaccinated did. The only traitors I see are the ones who went along with it and didn't stand up and said what was happening shouldn't be happening. We should have had 80% of Canadians saying this is not right. Those were the traitors. You betrayed your own Canadian citizens, your own neighbors, and your own family. So don't come calling us traitors because we want to go somewhere where that's likely never going to happen again. Instead said, you know what? Yeah, we should have done better. That's what I have to say. And yeah, it's a lot of really strong emotions because I still remember. And I know some of you will say, just move on, just move on. We can't move on until something is put in place to make sure it never happens again. Ignoring it and pretending it never happened is not the right way. But yeah, I'm going to move on to the next subject, which gives me a little bit of hope that we're going to have a change in government soon. That maybe we'll have some other ways of addressing all the sensitive or the very, very heated discussion I just had. Okay, I'm just trying to find the right flyer here. And I saw that it got moved. Where did it go? Okay, here it is. So Chrystia Freeland just resigned this morning. She was supposed to do an announcement, or not an announcement, but to present the spending from the government, the quarterly spending. We haven't seen it yet, or maybe while I'm recording, maybe it's been released already, but she was supposed to release that. I know you probably can't read this. I can't either. I'm going to have to open it in another screen that's bigger so I can read it. Give me 1 second here. Here, let's see if I can do this. Yeah, there you go. That's what's working better. So I'll read it to you. Dear Prime Minister, it has been an honor of my life to serve in government working for Canada and Canadians. We have accomplished a lot together. This is juicy. We're going to spill some tea here. Actually, it's facts, but it's still the tea. It has been an honor of my life. Okay, wait. I already read that. On Friday, you told me you no longer want me to serve as your finance minister and offered me another position in the cabinet. Upon reflection, I have concluded that the only honest and viable path is for me to resign from cabinet. To be effective, a minister must speak on behalf of the Prime Minister and with his full confidence. In making your decision, you made clear that I no longer credibly enjoy that confidence and possess the authority that comes with it. Oh, this is juicy. For the past number of weeks, you and I have found ourselves at odds about the best path forwards for Canadian. Our country today faces a grave challenge. The incoming administration in the United States is pursuing a policy of aggressive economic nationalism, including a threat of 25% tariffs. We need to take that threat extremely seriously. That means keeping our fiscal power dry today, so we have the reserve we may need for a coming tariff war. That means eschewing? I don't know how to say that word. Eschewing? Costly political gimmicks, sorry if I can't pronounce it, which we can ill afford and which makes Canadians doubt that we recognize the gravity of the moment. That means pushing back against America First economic nationalism with a determined effort to fight for capital and investment and the jobs they bring. That means working in good faith and humility with the premiers of the province and territories of our great and diverse country and building a true Team Canada response. I know Canadians would recognize and respect such an approach. They know when we are working for them, and they equally know when we are focused on ourselves. Inevitably, our time in government will come to an end, but how we deal with the threat our country currently faces will define us for a generation and perhaps longer. Canada will win if we are strong, smart, and united. And this conviction, which has driven my strenuous effort this fall to manage our spending in ways that will give us the flexibility we will need to meet the serious challenges presented by the United States. I will always be grateful for the chance to have served in government. I will always be proud of our government's work for Canada and Canadians. I look forward to continuing to work with my colleagues as Liberal Member of Parliament, and I'm committed to running again for my seat in Toronto in the next federal election. So she's not resigning as an MP. She's resigning as a member of Trudeau's cabinet. Wow, there's so many things in here. For one, she's saying how we should sorry, I'm laughing. I just find that comical coming from her, because the reason we're in this disaster is because of them to begin with. But instead, they're trying to put the blame on Trump and his America First approach. The tariffs are only coming if we don't take control of our border. That was the clause. We will do tariffs unless you do this. Taking care of our border and our national security and securing our border makes it so we don't have tariffs. It's an easy fix. It's something we should have been done already. But they don't even want to say that. But the funny part is when she says we try to put ourselves in a situation, if we were ever to face this, we'd be okay to challenge it. No, you haven't. You've done uncontrolled spending. We have the worst debt than we've ever had. You've been the most expensive government we've ever had. You haven't done anything to do that. You just promise Canadians over and over again that you're doing things for them. You're basically saying here's a bowl of porridge that they had to pay 3-4 times more for in taxes, but we're helping you out. It's the same thing with the GST. I'm anti-tax. I think we are taxed way too much in Canada, and I think something needs to be done about it. I'm okay with the GST being taken off. In fact, I would rather all GST be taken off forever. I'm not okay with the break or the fact that they only give businesses 2 weeks notice to do it, with this affecting the small businesses, the mom and pop shop. The big corporation will probably be okay. Most of them have probably figured it out. They have advanced system that is probably a matter of a check mark taking off, even though Pepsi's one of the ones that says they can't do it in this short time. So you're still being charged GST. But the small mom and pop shop are getting affected. So I'm not all for taking taxes off. I just don't think it should be a break. And I don't think the Liberal government should be telling, hey, we care about you. We're doing this for you. Like, look how wonderful we are. We're giving you like a break this Christmas because we care. That's the message. We're going to take taxes off of groceries because we care. Even though groceries are already not taxed. It's not groceries that are taxed. It's like fast food restaurants that are taxed, like pre-cooked stuff, pre-made stuff that you would be the same able to get at a restaurant, the same, or junk food, which I don't necessarily consider that food, actual food. I consider that junk food. It's not groceries. But anyways, after getting called out on that by many, many, many Canadians saying groceries are already tax-free, they changed their messaging now. They actually listed the items that they were taking the taxes off. But yeah, I'm so tired of the Liberals trying to buy our vote, making all these promises while they're actually stealing from us and making it to a point where we pay so much taxes that we have no opportunity. Yes, today is a passionate day. So let me know if you agree with some of the things let me know what your thoughts are. And I do see that Twitter is working right now because I'm getting comments from Twitter. So that's good. It's not like last week So the aftermath of that, Chrystia Freeland is not the only one to resign. There's another gentleman that resigned that was also a cabinet minister. I'm trying to find his photo here. Where did it go? Here you go. Sean Fraser. So Sean hasn't done a statement yet, or at least he hadn't by the time I started this show. If you have seen one, feel free to put it in the comments so people can go and look, or put it in the comments so I can bring it up and read it. But on Friday, it was all over mainstream media that insiders were saying that Sean Fraser was resigning. So Sean Fraser is from Nova Scotia. So his riding is in Nova Scotia. So, and he was the immigration minister, and then he became the housing minister. He failed completely at the immigration. It's one of the biggest reasons our country is falling right now and struggling the way it is. Uncontrolled immigration that has driven the cost of housing completely up to the point of right now we most of our kids generation might never be able to own a home if things don't change, which it's going to be hard to change because it's either that or there's going to be a housing market crash where everyone's going to lose everything they've bought. We saw that happen in the US before. It could happen again. But he resigned. Why? Not officially. There was reports on Friday, credible reports. I think he was interviewed about it. I didn't, just before I did the episode, I didn't get a chance to see what he said. But if you do have it somewhere, feel free to put it in the comments, a link to it. Now, just so you guys know, there's another reason that Sean Fraser is probably resigning from cabinet. A lot of these elected officials, so Karen is the one who shared this, so I try to give credit to anyone who I use their information. So if you want, go give Karen a follow. I don't know if I follow her. I'm going to go see. I do. Okay, we follow each other. Okay, good. And if you're following me on Twitter, I don't get notification of every follow. The best way to get a follow back from me, interact with me in the comments. And if I see it and we have like positive interactions, like if you're not swearing or insulting me, I'll probably follow you back. If it's a negative interaction, I probably won't, because I follow the people that I want to see their content on my wall. But this is what she shared. So this is Sean Fraser, I think, is riding. And so it looks like he's going to lose his seat. This is the polling in his riding. I mean, he could come back. Maybe he would come back if he helps to take down the Trudeau government. Maybe if he starts listening to Canadians, maybe then he'll make a comeback. But I don't know. That's what I think is the reason he's deciding to step down. I think a lot of these ministers are having a hard time to keep going along with Trudeau. I've said this before. I do believe Trudeau to be a narcissist. And the fact that he hasn't resigned already shows exactly that. He's not willing to go down unless he takes everything down with him. That's like classic narcissist behavior. They'll never admit to being wrong, to failing, or anything. No, it's everyone else around them the problem. He'll throw everyone under the bus, which is what he's doing. And this is not the first time he's done that. What he's done to Freeland, he's done to many women before. He did it to Jody Wilson-Raybould. And I have her tweet. She tweeted about Chrystia Freeland stepping down. I'm just going to see if I can find it and I'll show it to you. Whole bunch of people tweeted that I want to show you. But this is what she had to say. When the general is losing his most loyal soldiers on the eve of a tariff war, the country desperately needs a new general. Justin Trudeau, hashtag it's time, long past time to go. So if you don't remember, Jody was the one that was pushed out of, it's the justice minister, and she was also another position. I just can't remember the term. Attorney General of Canada. So she's the former Justice and Attorney General of Canada. And she stood her ground. Justin Trudeau was asking her to interfere in the criminal system to try to make SNC-Lavalin's charges go away, and she refused. She stood by. Nobody deserves special treatment in Canada, even if you're a friend of the Prime Minister. So basically, she refused, and then he replaced her. He kind of let her go of that position. It all came out. It was a big scandal, SNC-Lavalin scandal. Media should have been on Trudeau for what he did, but they just backed him up and just completely covered for him, justified it, saying he was trying to save jobs. You don't care about saving jobs, because if you cared about saving jobs, you would be doing complete different policies in your federal government, because you've attacked the job sector over and over and over through the policies you've put in place. The new attack on Alberta is just another example on the oil and gas industry. I'm really passionate today. You're like, whoa, Nadine, you're on fire today. I am. There's so much happening, but I'll share with you some of what other people are saying about it. Anita, Anna Polievre's wife. I'm going to call her Anna. Another woman, she says, another woman deemed not good enough for the job, only to be replaced by a man. Welcome to Justin Trudeau's version of feminism. No personal accountability for his failure. Just throw women under the bus because, well, it's 2024. That's what happens with virtue signaling. It's hypocrisy meant to distract people from seeing the truth. Of course, I believe positions should be filled based on merit, not gender, sexual orientation, ethnic background, or any other factor. When you have a prime minister who goes around lecturing the world on these issues, the hypocrisy must be called out. It's so true. Andrew Lawton said something about that too. He says the same week Justin Trudeau touted his feminist credentials and rebuke Americans for not electing a woman, he went on to fire his female finance minister. And I believe I saw in another post that Chrystia Freeland was the first female finance minister in Canadian history. But I haven't verified that. If one of my viewers can confirm that for me. But I did see it somewhere. I'm just going to see what else. Leslyn Lewis here saying Justin Trudeau is desperate and out of control. His right hand, the first female finance minister and deputy prime minister, has resigned. So she wasn't just a finance minister. She was the deputy prime minister. So if something happened to Justin Trudeau, she was the one that was supposed to replace him. So I believe that's similar to like vice president, if you were to compare to the US. Today, he will push Canada over a $40 billion economic guardrail, plunging Canadians further into that debt. It's clear his intention is to give away Canadians money in hopes of winning the election. Does he think Canadians are dumb, or does he just not care that he's killing our economy? So if you don't know, the Canadian dollar has been going down and down and down. It went down in the last few weeks, 6%. We're now below 70 cents to the American dollar. I'm just going to see what the current rate is today. And that was before the announcement of the deficit, how much they've spent. The plan, or the what it was supposed to be, less than 40 billion. I think it's going to be way higher than that. And I think it's another reason Chrystia Freeland is stepping down. I think she's going to take the fall for it. And that's supposed to be announced today. I'm just going to see. Canadian dollar to US. Well, this should have been easy. Here, let's ask Brock. Because that's like up to date current information. I just got to find how to. Let's see what Grok says. The current exchange rate of the Canadian dollar to the US dollar is approximately 0.7073 US dollar for 1 Canadian dollar. However, keep in mind that the exchange rates can fluctuate frequently. So that's what it is right now. Let's see when they announce the deficit. It's gone down 6%. There was a chart on that. So 6% it's gone down, not 6 cents. So because the dollar wasn't at a dollar for dollar, 6% would be like, I think 4 point something. It's gone down 4 point something in the last little while, which I find shocking. But anyways, that's what it was. I'm just gonna see if I missed what other people had to say, because I wanted to kind of share I haven't seen what Pierre has said about Chrystia Freeland stepping down. What do you guys think that means? Like, what do you think is going to happen next? I did put a tweet just before the start of the show. Say, what happens next? So some people said a big party. I'm like, yes. But no, in all seriousness, do you think he's just going to find other backbenchers that will put him on a pedestal to replace these positions? Or do you think this is the start of the Liberal government falling, and people are going to finally turn against Justin Trudeau and stop idolizing him and pushing him along? I don't know. But also, there's been discussion as to who's going to replace Chrystia Freeland as finance minister. And this is what someone was suggesting. David Jacobs said if Mark Carney is appointed as the unelected minister of finance, that will be a first in Canadian history. This was essentially undermine our democracy. So some people, because Mark Carney was brought into like Trudeau's surrounding recently, offered some position. I can't remember what it is. He made up a position. But some people are saying that was to put him in as a finance minister. So Mark Carney is not an elected MP. He's just a regular citizen. So this would be the first time that an unelected MP is going to be taking a ministerial position. It's a little bit different than in the US. In the US, it's mostly just regular people who maybe are elected just at all different levels of government. You're seeing who Trump is picking to be in his cabinet or whatever the term is. But in Canada, it's usually MPs. It's a little bit different in that sense. So he's saying this would essentially undermine our democracy because these people weren't elected in the first place. They didn't get the Canadians' vote on representing them in the cabinet. It can happen. It is allowed in our whatever Canadian constitution or whatever the term is for it. But yeah, so interesting statement here. Do you guys think that Mark Carney will do it? I don't know. Usually Trudeau picks people that are that won't make him look bad. He'll pick people that he thinks are less capable than him. He thinks. I'm not saying they are. He won't pick knight and shining star or shining star people that can outshine him. So I don't know. I don't know if he'll pick them. I personally think he's just going to find like a backbencher who will grovel at his feet. But we'll see. Okay, now we're going to talk about Pierre and his recent, and I've talked about this before, like I'm seeing a boldness that I didn't see before. A lot of people say, oh, he's not talking bold enough. Some people want him to go way extreme, an extreme that I don't even want him to go to. But yeah, he's done a few interviews, and I'm going to share one with you. This one was one that was shared by truck driver Pleb. He says, I'll get it ready and then I'll share the video. He says, Pierre Polievre promises to deport all illegal immigrants from Canada. He also promises to put an end to the fake refugee claims plaguing Canada and lower immigration by a lot. Do you support this? This is a tweet by the Pleb, and he has a video. So I'll open that video and I'll share it with you guys. Here you go. Let me know if you can hear it.
There are between 20,000 and 500 people in Canada illegally.
Sorry,
20,000 and 500,000 people in Canada illegally. 20,000 to 500,000. They don't know. And they say there could be more. Then we know that there are 30,000 people who've been ordered deported that have not left. We know that for sure. Trudeau has lost control of our immigration.
How do you get control?
I will take back control. First of all, we will track down the 30,000 people who've been ordered deported, and I will have them deported from this country. They've been ordered deported. These are people who are not eligible to be here. We will find them and we will deport them.
Do you have the resources for that?
We do. We just have to direct them to the front lines rather than the back office bureaucracies. Secondly, we will have a rapid approach to treating these new and mostly false refugee claims. For example, I think we should signal that there will be what I call a last in, first out. So people who submit claims now because they're frankly international students who want to stay, they're not real refugees, they're not bad people, but they're using the refugee system to try and stay. We have to treat their case immediately so they know that it's not worth it. We have to secure the border so there's no more people coming in illegally and then staying the 14 days necessary in order to be eligible for a refugee application that can take years. We have to stop them from coming in the first place. And then we have to set numbers for immigration that our economy, our housing market, and our healthcare system can absorb. So that means reducing the number.
So for those who don't know, a few episodes ago, I talked about immigration and I played a video by an MP. I won't play it again because it's a bit longer, but I'll find the name of the MP in the next video and then I'll show you guys so you can look. You know how he says that there are people who came on a student visa who are now applying for refugee status. If you come into Canada and apply for refugee status, the processing time for that application is 4 years. 4 years. So while they're waiting for their approval or their denial, they're allowed to stay in Canada, they're allowed to work in Canada, and they get benefits in Canada while they're waiting 4 years. He said, Pierre said between 20,000 and 500,000. That's how many they think are here. 20,000 and 500,000. They don't know. They don't know. How many of those are children who they have no tracking whatsoever? You want to ask yourself if human trafficking is happening in Canada. You have 500,000, potentially more. They say it could be more. He says it could be more than 500,000. They don't know. How many of those are human trafficked? We don't know. There's no tracking. There's no accountability. Our immigration system is broken. It is. And yet you have Chrystia Freeland saying statements like, oh, the upcoming tariff war. All Trump is asking, fix the border, fix your immigration. And they're not even talking about that. I'm glad Pierre is talking about it. And I'm glad he's saying he's going to deport. There's 30,000. I talked, sorry about that. I talked while he was saying there's 30,000 that have already been declared illegally in Canada and issued an order to leave Canada that haven't left. 30,000. And Pierre is saying that he's going to boot them out. So he is going to do a mass deportation. Now, I'll talk also about another video that I saw from him. Here, I'm just going to find it here. Where is it? I tweeted about it, so it should be easy to find. I tweeted about it yesterday. It's a video in French, so you're not going to understand it. Or some of you might, if you're bilingual. But I'll share the tweet that kind of explains it. You can see the video here. I'll play like kind of towards the end because that's the part that I really like. So Poliev explains, I think we're in a moment where Canadian politeness has gone too far, most of all towards the people that have caused the problem. He highlights the cost of housing in particular. Being polite with these politicians, it contributes to the problem because there's no accountability. It's self-sabotage that we're doing this in Canada, and it's unacceptable. We need to tell the truth, even if the truth is in contrast to politeness. So, in towards the end,
Ça contribue.
I'll play it up here. Even if you can't, what I'll do, I'll play it and then I'll tell you what I think it means. So for those of you who don't know, my first language is French. What I know it means, because my first language is French, but here I'll just share it up top here. But I was really impressed with what he had to say, and I'll tell you why.
Battage qu'on fait au Canada, et c'est inacceptable. Le Canada m'a
Here.
fait une promesse quand j'étais très jeune.
Okay,
J'étais
here it is.
au Canada, et c'est inacceptable. Le Canada m'a fait une promesse quand j'étais très jeune. J'étais
So he's saying Canada made me a promise when I was really young.
adopté, j'avais une mère monoparentale de
Talks about
16
how
ans.
he was adopted. His
Et
mom was
mes
16.
parents enseignants m'ont dit, hey, travaille fort,
Teacher
vous pouvez
parents
faire
told
n'importe
him,
quoi au Canada. C'est plus le cas.
if you work if you work hard, you can do anything in Canada.
C'est plus le cas. Je rencontre des jeunes
It's no longer the case.
chaque jour qui travaillent sans arrêt, qui
Every day
ne
that
peuvent
they
pas
work
acheter une maison,
without,
des mères monoparentales qui
every day they work without stopping. They still can't buy a home. And then he talks about single mothers,
ne peuvent
how
pas
they're even
nourrir
more
leurs enfants.
struggling.
Et je trouve
can't
ça
feed their kids.
aberrant. Et on a besoin de dire la vérité, même si la
And he's saying it's completely disgusting, and we need to be able to tell the truth, even if
vérité
it's not
est en
polite.
contraste avec la politesse.
Which, does that sound like someone else, you know? No, in reality, like, Canadian Conservatives have been so stuck on being politically correct that we have stopped speaking truth when we need to be speaking the truth the most. We need to stop being polite when policies and things are being put in place that are affecting the survival of Canadians, that are affecting our opportunity at having a successful life. There's no politeness in that. And that's what he says in the interview. He's like, why are we being polite to the people who are being so awful to us? And he says, we need to stop doing that. And I think he's taking a page out of the US. And I'm not saying necessarily he's doing just like Trump. He's just taking a page out of the conservative movement in the US. We are facing a crisis in Canada, a democratic crisis, because we don't have both sides of the story or non-biased. That's a fact. You can defend the media all you want. It's a fact. You can see the coverage of the convoy protests, compare it to the coverage of the pro-Hamas Palestinian protests. It's not fair. It's very biased to the left media. So conservatives, it doesn't matter what they say. They're going to twist it. They're going to make it sound awful. It doesn't matter. They need to start reaching the people directly, and they need to start reaching them with facts and truth, and to get rid of that politeness. It's not time to be polite anymore. It's time to be bold and brave and say it how it is. And in the US, they've had that for a while. But in Canada, we haven't. We think, oh, a politician shouldn't be that. A politician should be this. And you're asking for fake, unauthentic politician. I want a politician that when I go and vote for him, I know exactly what I'm getting. I want a politician that's going to stand up for me, that's going to defend me, that's going to defend the opportunity we have in Canada, that's going to defend our Charter of Rights and Freedom. And I'm really glad to start seeing that. I'm really glad to start seeing that boldness And I think we're going to see it more and more and more. And the election in the US, I think, ignited a flame inside conservatives that we now can speak the truth. We now can start addressing these issues, and we can do it without being afraid anymore. And I don't think it's necessarily that only started when Trump got elected. I think it started a little bit before that. When Tucker came to Calgary and Edmonton, I went there. And I saw a shift even happen online. I don't know if you guys noticed it, but I noticed it greatly. I was already speaking out, but often I was just speaking out alone. Like people weren't comment, even though people would message me and say, I agree with you. Like they weren't being as bold, especially people who had their real names. You'd have a lot of anonymous account. Yeah, you have that protection under the anonymity, but you didn't if it was your real name. But Tucker came and he said, let them call you racist. Let them call you bigot. Let them call you all these names. They're only doing that to try to silence you. It's not true. You're not a racist. You're not a bigot. Just speak the truth. Stop being so afraid of what they're going to call you. Stop being so afraid of what they're going to attack you with. And be bold. And I remember being in that room with thousands and thousands of people thinking like, yeah, you know what? We're not alone. If every single one of them were to go out there into the world and be completely brave and speaking what they think now and stop being so afraid of cancel culture. Like, did you know you can't get canceled unless you allow yourself to be canceled? I don't know how many times I've been like attacked, name called, lied about in the media. Google my name. Did that stop me? No, it made me louder. If every single Canadian was to stand on their conviction and get louder, we wouldn't even be facing the disaster we're facing right now. They made us believe we couldn't speak out our mind. You saw it during COVID. And where I realized how effective it was to come together, a lot of people don't know the history of how my organization started. Did you guys know that we created groups within each profession so that they could approach their unions or their unions that weren't representing them together? So we had a bunch of people who were not vaccinated or just were against the passport and were vaccinated, but they weren't okay with what was happening. And they would go to their union and be like, oh, you're the only one. You're the only one. And they didn't know others right directly near to them because those who weren't vaccinated weren't talking about it because they didn't want to be attacked or called them. They saw how some of the ones who were vaccinated were treating the patients, the things they were saying about the unvaccinated. And if you're a nurse that's watching this and you're vaccinated and you were one of those, you have people around you that weren't vaccinated that you don't know, that will remember forever what you said about them. I would, if you're realizing and waking up to it, I would apologize to those around you and say, you know what I did was what I said wasn't right. But yeah, you'd have hundreds and hundreds. We had 450 nurses, more than that now, who we gave them a place to gather. So when they say, oh, you're the only one, they're like, no, actually there's 450 of us. And we're going to be filing a grievance against the union for not representing us. And not only did they win, they weren't forced to vaccinate. They also were refunded all the testing that they initially had to pay out of pocket to do. They were given all of that back. So if you stand with those who speak up, even if it's just standing with them, liking their thing or agreeing with them or defending someone who's standing up in your workplace, it stops. It only gets to the point that it did because those of you who should have been standing didn't. We're at a crossroad right now. We have a country that we don't recognize anymore. Question is, are you going to talk to your liberal neighbor and say why you're not supporting Trudeau? Say why you don't think we should vote for him? Or are you just going to stay out of it and believe that, oh, we should never talk about politics, religion, or anything like that? It's because you didn't talk about politics or religion that they're still brainwashed into voting for someone like Trudeau after he's completely destroyed our country. Okay. Next subject. And I say you. I fall into the same category. There's been time where I've avoided talking about it. That used to be my whole life. It's not anymore. I'll end it with a little fun a little fun meme that my husband sent me. Explain this humankind. I don't know who posted it, but my husband sent me this. Aliens. There's been a lot of talk about aliens with the drones and all that situation. So aliens say they're being interviewed. Jesus, we love that guy. And then we say, we've been waiting centuries for his second coming. And then the aliens, really? He comes to us every year. We invited him for cookies. What did you do? And then the humans are silent. Wait, what did you do? As in we killed him? We murdered him and put him on a cross and gave him the worst death we could possibly give him? Anyways, I saw this meme and I thought it was funny because if aliens are real, I'm sure they see God too. Really? He comes every year. We love that guy. We invited him for cookies. What did you do? What did you do? Anyways. That's it. That's my show. I think this is one of the shortest one. And I hope you've enjoyed it. I was quite passionate today. I'm hoping we're going to see this federal liberal government collapse and that we're going to see an election soon. I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Do you think there's an election coming? I also heard that 2 more ministers are about to step down, but that again, that's rumors. We don't know if it's true yet, but what do you think is going to happen? I'm hoping and praying for a new government. And also, this week, there's no episode. I'm going to say it tomorrow too. There's no episode Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. I might come on quickly live. I'm going to the US and to Phoenix, Arizona to America Fest. And just so you guys see who is all going to be there, I'm going to share it here. So this is America Fest. It's being put on by Turning Point USA. If you don't know what Turning Point USA is, it's a conservative organization that does activism. They also have like a faith aspect to it. They go to like colleges and stuff to kind of rise up conservatives, kind of get them to get together and not feel so alone. Anyways, they do a conference every year. It's the biggest political conference, conservative conference in the US every year. So Trump was just announced to being there. And so he's going to be speaking one of the days. It's from the 19th to the 22nd. I'm flying out Wednesday, so on the 18th. So Tucker, Glenn Beck, Patrick Beck Davis. There's a lot of podcasters too that are going. Matt Walsh, Charlie Kirk. I really hope I get to meet Charlie Kirk. He I just like his approach on almost everything, and he's very strong in his faith and he doesn't shy away from that. I believe he's the one that founded this organization, but I'm not 100% sure. There's quite a few elected officials as well as conservative activists. So there's Riley Gaines is going to be there. There's another Allie. Is it Allie Macbeth? Where is she on the flyer? I don't know if, oh, right there. Allie Beth. I follow her on Facebook and watch her episodes. She does a lot of really cool interviews. She's a Christian conservative kind of commentator. George, I can't remember his last name, and I can't read. I can't see it. It's just too far. But George is going to be there. I'm sure some of you have seen some of his video with he talks about his faith, and he used to be a different type of podcaster, but it kind of has become. So yeah, I'm hoping to meet a lot of these people. So, and maybe see if they'll come on my show. Maybe have an episode soon. I do have a couple guests coming in the new year that I reached out to that are pretty phenomenal and big. I have Conceptual James coming, and then I have also, I don't want to butcher his name. Bruce Party is coming. Remember a couple episodes ago, I talked about there was I actually showed a video that Bruce was on this interview, and he was talking about the horseshoe theory and then the left versus the right, but also he added an extra layer to that: libertarian individualism versus collectivism. So it kind of was describing the woke left and the woke right, or in other terms, the far left and the far right, kind of where people stand in that. Anyways, so he's going to come on my show on January 10th to talk about that. So, and what that looks like in like political parties, what that looks like in political leaning context from a I'm going to bring in kind of the Canadian perspective, what my thoughts are on it. So I was really excited to see that he agreed to come on. And so did Conceptual James. So James, what's his last name? We were talking. I don't know yet what date he's going to be coming. He's one of the speakers at this event. James Lindsay, anti-communist James Lindsay. There's been a lot of controversy about him. A lot of people are not happy that he's basically now calling the far right the woke right. and they're saying he's trying to divide the conservative movement. I don't think it's that. I think he's trying to show that there is a toxic aspect of the conservative movement and trying to expose it so that we can make sure we don't keep going in that direction of authoritarianism. And I've talked about that before. I'm against authoritarianism, whether it's on the left and on the right. And I've gotten toe to toe with people who are authoritarians of the right, who thinks that they're going to put all these legislation and policy to match their ideology and forget about the rights and freedom of the other side. I don't think that's better either. I think we need a government that represents the people and treats the people fairly. I'm more of a libertarian mindset. On some aspects, like I do think we need to come together as a population to take care of the vulnerable. So on many aspects, I would consider myself a libertarian, but on other aspects, I'm like, wait a minute. If we leave it to human nature, we might completely fail if we are all doing it individualists. So there's certain aspects of it, but I would consider like myself at the bottom right of that. Anyways, I'll talk about that when he's on the show, because I'll kind of show where I am on that. And hopefully we'll bring a graph too while he's talking that we can put on the screen. I'm not sure for sure how it's all going to look like, but yeah, so going to the States this week. So no show Wednesday to Friday. I will be back Monday. We might have to pause for a little bit too between Christmas and New Year's, because I won't necessarily be here to record in the studio. We're going to see family a bit. We're going to have a house sitter and stuff, but we're going to see family in Alberta. So my husband's family, he's from Alberta. He grew up in Alberta on a farm. And yeah, so we're going to go see some of his family. So I'm really looking forward to that. Alberta, the land of opportunity. I love Alberta. Anyways, and so yeah, tomorrow there'll be a show. No show Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then yeah, look back between Christmas and New Year's is when James said he'll come on the show. So I will probably have an episode, but we're going to play it by ear because he's so in demand. The fact that he said yes, I'm like, thank you. Same with with Purdy. What? Oh, I keep forgetting his first name. I shouldn't. I'm sorry. Bruce Party. I also asked someone, Constantine. I have to point this out because I was so impressed. I also asked Constantine if he would come on my show. He's kind of a big deal. Constantine Kissing. If you don't follow him already, I highly recommend you do. I really respect his take and how his messaging and how he approaches like the controversial subjects. But this was his response, and I just want to give it credit because I thought it was amazing. Most of these people probably would never respond, but he says, "Hey Nadine, thank you for the invitation. My schedule is very difficult at the moment and will only get worse next year, so I must decline. However, I wanted to reply to say thank you and also to encourage you to keep going." Like, that's such a nice message. Anyways, but I'm going to see if you know of someone, if you know someone that would be great to come on the show, let me know, send them my way. I want to try to tackle the controversial subjects for a more balanced middle ground approach. And that's my goal for this show. Not just that, to bring in a Christian perspective on all of that. Obviously today I didn't really talk about my faith a whole lot, but hopefully I reflected it in my approach to addressing like these topics that are very, very sensitive, that bring out a lot of passion and a lot of trauma and hurt in people. And I hope that I can do that and reflect Christ in my approach to that. But yeah, so thanks for watching your daily dose of salt and light, and I will see you guys tomorrow. We'll see if I have more juice, more tea to spill tomorrow. There might have been lots happening while I will just say one last thing and then I'll end. I actually today was like, oh, I don't really want to do the show, only because I wanted to stay on Twitter to see what was going to happen next. And if you're watching this, thank you. Most of you probably want to stay on Twitter to see what's happening next, but hopefully I gave you a quick update if you're if you're just watching to see what is happening. But yeah, if you don't follow me already, you can do so on all platforms using the at Nadine G-Ness. So Nadine G-Ness, sorry. Nadine G-Ness. G as in golf. So Nadine G-Ness. On Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. I'm not going live yet. I need to figure it out. Same thing with TikTok. I have all the qualifications to be able to live stream. I just haven't figured out how to connect it. It's a lot harder than the other ones, but hopefully in the new year, I'll have that connected as well. But yeah, thanks for watching the show, and you guys have a wonderful afternoon.